offensively were flying around as well, and those guys just, they played better than us tonight. So I like the start. I like the direction we're headed in.
Oh, paging Max Kellerman. Is there cause for concern in the land?
There is. There is cause for concern, and I'll tell you why. When the Cavs beat the Celtics, and it was on the road. They got all these new players. They go on the road, and they beat up the Celtics. And then a couple days later, they're at OKC, and they beat OKC by a comfortable margin. I mean, the combined total of those two games was 30 points. Cavs were plus 30 against those two teams on the road as soon as they get the new players. The question was that sustainable? And our friends at Second Spectrum Analytics, Stephen A., know you love the analytics, analyzed it, and what was found was that the Cavs were not only getting higher percentage shots than they normally get, that goes for several key players, including LeBron James, including J.R. Smith, but they were hitting those high percentage shots at an unsustainably high rate. Meantime, the Celtics were getting their normal shots and just missing. Now, whether they're just missing because there's more energy on the defense and that can rush someone's shot and all that kind of stuff, that's another question, and I think that's legitimate, and I think the Cavs defense has improved. But that's what the analytics showed. There should be some regression to the mean. So that's the first reason to be concerned. The next reason to be concerned is without Kyrie, like if you look at the players on the team, especially without Kevin Love there, you look at the players on the team, they're not great players. They're okay players. They're fine. They're NBA players of a type. They're high energy. They're younger now than they were, more athletic, longer wingspan type players, like that sort of thing. But none of them are really all-star caliber players. Rodney Hood, you hope, can develop a certain way. Larry Nance is the kind of guy you want on your team. But, just by themselves, these are not great players. So it was another cause for concern. And finally, what I saw, which is my real cause for concern in last night's game, and it may seem like a small thing, Stephen A., but I think it's significant. Look, at one point this was true at the end of the game. Maybe someone scored when it didn't matter anymore. But for like an 8-minute stretch, I want to say, LeBron was the only Cav to score. Now, that would be one thing if he was looking for teammates and they were missing shots, etc. But I didn't see that. And the telltale sign for me, it was about a minute 30 or something like that left in the game. It was 5-point game. LeBron's dribble, and then then takes a step back three. And I think it was Chris Webber working the broadcast said he doesn't have a problem with that shot. LeBron's hot and everything. I had a problem with that shot. I thought that it betrayed a lack of trust in his teammates. Now, some of these are new teammates. You say that he hasn't had a chance to develop the rapport, etc. But it also maybe speaks to LeBron's basketball IQ. These guys maybe aren't good enough. I have to take matters into my own hand. And he was playing against a team that was sharing the ball, was looking for high percentage shots. Maybe had LeBron been more trusting in his teammates, the ball was moving, swinging around, and guys were taking higher percentage shots, they could have won that game. Again, 5-point game with a minute 30, you score a bucket, doesn't have to be a three. It's a one-possession game. You get a defensive stop, you can win that game. And I did not see that LeBron James who believed in his teammates show up. I saw the LeBron James show up who believed he had to do all the heavy lifting and pull even harder in crunch time to be the kind of closer, Stephen A., that you like to talk so well about, but not the kind of player that can elevate this team to the level they need to be elevated in order to seriously compete for a championship.
Well, based on that dissertation, wouldn't it be reasonable to surmise that would make the Toronto Raptors a threat to the Cleveland Cavaliers? Since basically it's about LeBron and the fact that there's no real clear number two option? Well, you know what? That's where I'm going. Because if there's a reason to be concerned, all the things that you pointed to ultimately comes down to the fact that the Cleveland Cavaliers, by losing last night's game, have allowed the Washington Wizards to pull within a half game of that number 3 seed within a conference. And as a result of that, if that would drop Cleveland to 4, who are they going up against in the second round? It would happen to be the Toronto Raptors. And that's the reason why you have to be concerned, which gets me to Wizards. Because, see, when I look at this team, let's call it what it is. John Wall, I hope you'll watch it. First of all, I want to congratulate him. I want to congratulate his man, Rich Paul, and those guys. $170 million. John Wall, you are set. Lucky you. Lucky you, because these damn Wizards are looking better without him. It's a fact. Now, that doesn't mean they are better without him. It doesn't mean that John Wall isn't the stud that you and I both know him to be, Max, because he's a baller. But I'm watching last night's game in Cleveland, And I'm watching the guys afterwards, and I'm looking at them walking around with hats that's talking about family over everything, and them praising and bloviating about how together they are. And you know what came to my mind? I never saw that when John Wall was there. It wasn't there. It just wasn't there. I'm watching Bradley Beal ball. Some dude named Tomas Satoransky, 17 points on 6 or 7 shooting. I mean, what the hell is going on here? Otto Porter actually looks like he wants to play. I mean, I'm looking at this stuff. And so I'm looking at it from that perspective, and that gets us back to Cleveland. Because if you're Cleveland and you're the number 3 seed, and you're devoid of that clear number 2 option, clearly a championship is out of the question. Do you have a shot to come out of the East? I'm still picking them to come out of the East because they got LeBron. But based on what you're saying, I'm saying to you, excuse me, if they're devoid of that number 2, if he doesn't have confidence in them, if he believes he has to do it all, and he doesn't have somebody to rely upon, then I'm looking at Toronto, who's familiar with one another, who may be tired of folks talking about how they don't produce in the postseason. And excuse me, you're going to have to go up against them. All because these Wizards have come up on the rear and are threatening to slide Cleveland back. So they have to sit up there and go against Toronto before they ever have a chance to get at Kyrie and Boston. And that's what's interesting me about all of this right now.
First, I want to point out that the point you're making about Satoransky, which is a very good one, essentially is he doesn't monopolize the ball. He's obviously not the talent John Wall is, who is. There are only a handful of guys.
Not one turnover, Max.
Yeah,
he didn't turn over the ball once last night. Not one.
It wasn't dribble everywhere and like a talent showing off. It was a team moving the ball, and that's what I mean about LeBron. LeBron did the John Wall, essentially the thing that that someone may infer you're accusing John Wall of doing, which is trying to take over, trying to do too much. He's such a prodigious talent. Satoransky, you saw Otto Porter, you saw the give and goes, you saw and by the way, Cleveland's defense got soft in the middle of that game. It looked a lot like the defense did before the trade, and that's because they were facing a team where one player wasn't trying to do too much. The ball was moving. As D'Antoni says, the ball finds energy. That's what was happening. It was addition by subtraction with Satoransky instead of John Wall, and that's a problem for LeBron. But I want to focus on Toronto for a second. This is what I think is their Achilles heel. They do what I just described better than anyone in the East, I think. They share that ball. The offense is excellent to watch. That's the way you play basketball. Right up until the tight moments of close games. A lot of their games aren't that close. They don't have to worry about it. But when they're up against a good team that puts them in a close game, they get away from that. And they start isoing Kyle Lowry and especially DeRozan. And those guys aren't very good in those situations. They stop moving the ball. So I think the Raptors fall prey to that exact same dynamic you're describing in close games. And that'll be their undoing against Cleveland because LeBron's better than they are.
And you got to have somebody that can close, preferably from the perimeter. Who has that? That would happen to be Washington and Bradley Beal. I don't know if anybody has noticed, but this has become Bradley Beal's team. I'm telling you right now. And when I saw him during All-Star Weekend, had a big glowing smile on his face. And it wasn't just because he was an All-Star. It's because he recognizes what's happening before our very eyes here. When John Wall comes back, I believe that John Wall is a stud. Don't get me wrong. The brother can ball. But this team in the nation's capital seems to be making a statement at every turn that we're better off without him. Knowing John Wall, he's going to come back and want to remind you of exactly what his value is. We don't know whether they're going to be receptive to that or whether or not they're going to push back off of that. Either way you slice it, the bottom line is this. It can send a ripple effect throughout the East because if the Wizards come together like they are now, and John Wall comes together with them, he better get his behind back soon, by the way.
If he's
but if he comes together with them, who knows what more, who knows what noise they could make, and that's what can make it interesting as well. Because they could beat Toronto. They could beat, because they already have. They could beat Toronto. They beat Houston this year. They beat Golden State. They beat Toronto. Look out. It's getting very, very interesting.
It is for
really
sure.
is.
The Cavs have an interesting one tonight, too, guys. They're at Memphis. We'll leave it there, though. Could have more big-name schools could be in major trouble after the FBI identifies at least 12 more universities with possible recruiting violations. We'll tell you if Coach K and Roy Williams should be worried. And Kirk Cousins seems to be the most desired quarterback out there right now, but could a surprise team throw their hat in the ring? This one might upset Stephen A. Smith. Stay tuned.
You give new meaning to